All right, ladies and gentlemen, this interview is brought to you by Burn Up Coaching and the 21-Day Challenge. And if you're an entrepreneur or a high achiever and you feel like you are stuck, overwhelmed, lost, or you just know that there's another level that you can tap into your greatness, and you want to get clear on your purpose, you want to dial in your habits, your routines, and really create that momentum of success, and you are committed to it, then definitely the 21-Day Challenge is a good fit for you. So how the 21-Day Challenge works is you'll get clear on your purpose, your life purpose, your mission, your vision, your strategy, all the objectives and values and everything that's important to you. And then you'll have a daily plan of action to accomplish those things. And in the period of 21 days, you will focus on that single target goal, doing whatever it takes, as long as it takes, to achieve your top priority, because that's why you said it. It's your life purpose. It's your mission. And you get to figure out what that is. So if you want to dial that in, if you want daily accountability, very high touch, VIP exclusive treatment, I'll be holding you accountable. You'll have access to message me, weekly deep dive calls to uncover the limiting beliefs and self-sabotage and things that have been keeping you stuck or stopped, then the 21-Day Challenge is for you. Send me a message, chris@beyourgps.com, or on Facebook, and let me know you're ready to dive into your 21-Day Challenge to break through your resistance, the limiting beliefs, the smallness, the mediocre. So I would step into that right now and send me that message. Looking forward to talking to you about your 21-Day Challenge. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's get this party started. And how we get this party started even more after the 21-Day Challenge, when you message me, is we talk about the iTunes review of the week. And the iTunes review of the week this week is Crystal Ray. Crystal says, Chris is amazing. Chris is absolutely awesome, and I really love his energy. He's truly passionate about what he does, and I love what makes this show unique. Such an inspirational podcast. Thank you so much, Crystal. I appreciate you. We appreciate your feedback and letting us know what you really love about the show. And if you're out there and you're listening, go ahead and give us a review. Go to beyourgps.com/iTunes or search Becoming Your Greatest Possible Self on iTunes or on Facebook, and you can give us a review in either of those places. iTunes helps more so we can reach more people, and we appreciate either place where you want to give that to us. Thank you in advance for doing that, letting us know what you enjoy, what you feel like we could grow, and how we could improve the show and make it even better for you in the future. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, this next woman, Laina, is going to be bringing the heat. She's full of wisdom, full of powerful awareness and perspective, and a paradigm that's really going to empower you to be your greatest possible self. So make sure you stick around throughout this entire interview, because she is a wealth of knowledge and a brilliant woman, and she's here to support you in becoming your greatest possible self. So stay tuned, because she is about to come on in just a minute here. A modern-day mystic, philosopher, and teacher, Laina Orlando takes a fresh and fun approach to simplifying spirituality for today's seekers of truth. Laina's own spiritual awakening propelled her to share what is possible when one truly commits to personal transformation. She is an author, a director of the Awareness Academy, creator of the Power of Awareness program, speaker, awareness coach, and teacher of A Course in Miracles and A Course of Love. Her simple techniques and practical tools have helped to transform the lives of thousands of people. Laina considers her work fun and a sacred privilege. And she is here today to share with us and empower us to become our greatest possible self. Laina, are you ready to rock the house?
Yes, I am. Thank you so much for inviting me. This is so exciting.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here, taking the time out of your schedule to share with us how to become our greatest possible self, how to step into our awareness, how to shift and lift and upgrade and become our greatest possible selves. It's going to be a lot of fun. And we always start out these interviews by talking about the theme of the day, which is defining moments. So Laina, how does this concept of defining moments make a difference for you? How has it impacted your life, and what does it mean to you? What do these defining moments mean for you?
Oh my goodness, there are quite a few.
Yep.
And those defining moments are they become these benchmarks that propel us to another level. It's like you can't go back from that space. It's almost like going up a set of stairs. A defining moment is that step at a new level. And then, of course, that sets your foundation. And then you take that next defining moment step, and it propels you. For me, it just keeps expanding my awareness of truth. That's what every single defining moment has done for me.
Wow, that's so powerful. It's like that it's like a rite of passage, like you get to that benchmark, that level, that you pass the test, you embrace the challenge, and you grow through it. And then on the other side of that, on the other side of the storm or whatever it might be, It's like you come out empowered, you come out more equipped to, and able to handle whatever life throws at you. That's awesome. That's
Exactly.
powerful.
You
Very.
defined it perfectly.
That's beautiful. Beautiful. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing your perspective on defining moments. And we're going to be talking about that throughout the interview and throughout this entire 12-hour marathon. And let's dive a little bit more into who you are, Laina. I read your intro, and why don't you share for our audience who's getting more connected with you and growing with you more about who you are and what you stand for?
Well, I'll take you to a defining moment because that completely changed my life.
Mm.
And it was when I was 41 years old, which is 16 years ago, and my mother passed away. My
Mm.
dad had died earlier, so I was already familiar with people dying. All my grandparents had passed away, but when my mom passed away, it was one of those things. It rocked my world. It brought me face to face with my own mortality. It had me realize that my days on this planet were numbered. So her passing propelled me into what I now recognize is my spiritual journey, my
Mm.
conscious spiritual journey. I believe that we're all spiritual beings on a human journey. And now I understand that it happens from the moment of conception that we
Mm.
begin the spiritual journey. But my mom's death brought me face to face with I needed to know who I really was.
Mm.
Um, that started a journey of inquisitiveness into who am I really? Why am I here? What is my purpose? Because up until then, I was doing everything society had taught me to do.
Mm.
I got married. I had 3 children. I had the house in the suburbs. I had the money, the house, the second home, we had it in the mountains in North Georgia. I drove the SUV. I was overly involved in every activity that I could between the PTA and the HOA.
Mhm.
I had so many hats that I was wearing that I wasn't living my life. I was performing all of the prerequisite things that I needed to be do and have so that I could be successful.
Mm.
Well, when my mom died, I it just sucked the wind out of me. All of a
Mm.
sudden, I found myself in this incredible place of fear, feeling depression, feeling like just I can't function.
Mm.
It hit me so hard that I had lost not only my mom but my best friend. I was an orphan now because I had no other parents, no grandparents. And what that did for me, Chris, is it literally stopped me because I couldn't function.
Mm.
What was so amazing about that is that all of the things that I thought I was supposed to be, do, and have had made me feel so self-important.
Mm.
I was the organizer of the parties at the school. I was the organizer of all the activities in my neighborhood. Not all, many of them.
Mm.
I was a top salesperson at work. I was such an overachiever, and all of a sudden, I couldn't do any of those things. I didn't have the bandwidth. I was too depressed, too sad, too much in my own depression.
Wow.
And what I began to see is that life kept moving without me. The
Mm.
parties were being had, but I wasn't being invited because I was not fun to be with.
Mm.
The activities at the school, somebody picked up and began to do those things. My clients, other sales reps were taking care of them. My husband managed to move on, do the things that needed to be done in the house. It's almost like I didn't matter anymore. And in that being left behind, kind of being left out, I
Mm.
realized, well, all this time I thought I mattered so much. I thought I was so self important. And now nobody cares about me. Nobody even cares if I'm not there. That brought me to my knees. And it
Wow.
brought me to the place of saying, there's got to be more to life than this. Why have I wasted all my time people pleasing,
Mm.
creating this mask, this persona, becoming this overachiever, accumulating all this money, gathering all these things, and nobody cares about me in my hour of need?
Mm.
Nobody cares about me. That was probably the most defining moment of my life because there is, like there's, BC before Christ and,
Mhm.
AD after death. Well, there was before that for me. I call it my BA, before awakening. And then there's the after awakening because that woke me up to realize that I was living a lie. I
Mm.
wasn't living authentically me because I wasn't self expressed. I was just performing to get validation. And that was a hard pill to swallow. It took me a while to take that in. But
Yeah.
once I began to accept that that's what had happened to me or what was happening, my life changed from there on for the best.
Wow.
Absolutely for the best.
Wow, that's so powerful. What I hear is it really took an event that was so impactful, so jarring, so it could be something that was really exciting and brought the best out of you and brought this moment of bliss and an awakening in a positive way, and it can also happen in a very painful way. And for you, your personal journey was pain, and you had all this tremendous pain, and then you noticed in the wake of the pain, while you were so to speak reeling from the pain, like just like trying to deal and manage with that event, what had happened, your loss, you started noticing, you started waking up to, like, wait a second, like I'm here with all this pain and I still see things keep going, still see the meetings going on, still see my family continuing to move forward and work on their stuff, and still see everything getting done. And it's like you had been exhausting yourself to just show up and perform and have it look good, have it look like you were happy, have it look like you had everything under control, and have it look like you were living life, but really deep down inside you weren't. And it took this pain to recognize that, oh my gosh, like, one, I wasn't living, and like, did I really even matter? Was I doing something that mattered? Was I making a positive and empowering impact on a people in a way that I knew I could? You knew that, like, there was more within you. And also, I think you saw that, well, if I'm going to be alive for the rest of my time that I'm alive, it better be in a way that I'm enjoying it, that I'm fulfilled, that I'm actually alive.
Yes.
That's powerful.
Yeah, because to be alive is to give.
Mm.
When a tree is alive, it's giving fruit. When a
Wow.
flower, a plant is alive, it's giving the flower, it's giving its scent.
Wow.
And what the heck was I giving? I wasn't
Mm.
giving anything. I was taking. I was making sure that I got whatever it is that I needed to get my needs met.
Mm.
And that was one of those big realizations is I totally didn't remember that I had so much in me to give
Mm.
because I got conditioned to be a taker. Like all of us get conditioned to, I'm going to give you this, but I got to get something back. And if I get something, I'm going to have to protect it
Mm.
because I had a mentality of it was me against the world, and I had to prove myself.
Yeah.
So yeah, that my mom's passing, I say she gave birth to me twice. Once physically, and then with her passing, she gave birth to my spiritual self.
Wow. That's so
Yeah.
incredible. And what, we had a theme on the 12-hour marathon a while back called the gifts of life and death, right? And it sounds like two of the both of those, she gave you her biggest gifts. Like, one was the gift of life, bringing you into this world, and her gift of death was the awakening for you to truly come alive, so to speak, in the world. That is beautiful.
Yeah.
That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
Wow.
It was
Wow.
amazing.
Well, I know you're living her memory and her essence in the best and highest way that you can, because the only way to do that would be to recognize her passing as a gift, as a awakening, as a new chapter in your life. So you went through this process, and how did you step into the role of becoming an awareness coach? Like, where did that happen along the journey, and how did it happen?
Well, it's a fascinating story, and it is one that for a very long time I was afraid to share with people because I
Mm.
didn't want to spook people.
Mhm.
But one of the things that I became aware of is, as you were saying, my mom's still with me because I began to realize that I wasn't just this body.
Mm.
As I delved into my spiritual journey, I realized that my mom's body was no longer here, but her essence, her soul, her spirit is eternal because we're all made of energy. And as I began to accept these truths of who we are, which was moving through my conditioned Christian mind, I
Mhm.
grew up Catholic,
Mm.
and beginning to get more clear about the truth of everything,
Mm.
the fact that we're consciousness. We are all made of pure energy, having an experience as an individualized aspect of the creator, whatever you want to call it.
Mhm.
Um, so, as A Course in Miracles says, we're all in the mind of God, which means that we are all being imagined in every single moment. If God ceases to imagine me, I cease to be.
Wow.
So, as I began to realize that we are all pure consciousness, I began to tap into that consciousness. I began to receive information. I began to hear messages.
Mm,
And to put it plainly, it's intuition. And
mm,
we can call it an angel, or we can call it a guide, or in my case, the voice in the beginning felt like it was like Jesus talking to me, because I grew up Catholic. If Buddha started talking to me, that would have freaked me out.
right.
Um, it was a familiar voice. It was a familiar being,
Right.
and I was being guided through processes that I was being told, okay, this is what you're going to do.
Mm,
This is the next step. This is how you're going to question your thoughts.
wow.
This is what you're going to shift from this, and you're going to lift into this vibration. I was taught about energy being vibration. So
Mm,
there's a lower frequency, there's a higher frequency, just like
yeah,
sound.
right.
So I was then told, and at this time I was a realtor, a really successful realtor. I was told that I was going to become an awareness coach, and I was going to be a teacher of spirituality. And I was like, what the heck is that? I don't know anything about that. I was also told I was going to open up a center,
Mm,
a spiritual center. And it was going to be called the Center for Awareness. And I'm really going, what the, you know, what? I don't know these things, but
right.
I was told you don't need to know it. It's going to come through you. It's going to flow through you.
Mm,
And one day I heard the voice clear as can be. Go to your sunroom. We're going to write a workshop. And I went to my sunroom, and sure enough, the workshop, The Power of Awareness, came out.
wow.
It's 6 phases from conception to enlightenment. And I was told exactly what each phase that everybody goes through. Um, and I knew this is true. Not only was I beginning to experience some of it, but I could feel the truth in it.
Mm,
So I opened up the Center for Awareness, and I began to teach this course, and people's lives began to change. I started this in 2007, and it has been the most amazing experience of my life. And
mm,
I literally walked in faith into this. I've since closed the center because of other very very defining moments in my life.
yeah.
Quite a few really remarkable things that I hope we might touch in at least one or two of them.
Yeah.
um, but from watching people begin to use this course and participate in it and question their thoughts and use the simple tools shift and lift,
Mm,
I began to see not only did it work for me, but there was a universal application to these truths.
hmm,
And people would always ask me, is this based on A Course in Miracles? And at that time, I didn't even know what A Course in Miracles was.
wow.
So I was like, no. Then I didn't say Jesus gave it to me,
Right.
or intuition, or
Right.
higher knowing consciousness gave it to me. And but as I saw how it was helping people transform their lives, I
Mm,
knew there was something really profound about this. Then I realized that I needed to treat it like the sacred teachings that they really are.
wow.
They're very simple, but they really are sacred because they speak of the truth that every one of us is experiencing.
Mm,
And more specifically, the truths that we have forgotten. I forgot my truth when I became a people pleaser, when I became outer focused.
mm,
And my journey was about peeling all the layers of my inauthentic self and return to my authentic true self.
yeah.
So these teachings say, how do you forget your truth and how to remember it, how to recover it, how to reclaim it, to be more specific about what we're doing.
So amazing. Wow. So that you shared a lot of really powerful stuff, and we're definitely going to get into those defining moments along your journey as well. And I really love how you were resistant at first. You were resistant at first to owning your truth because you were still probably in that outer focus mindset. Like, what will people think? Like, what happens if I'm like outwardly expressing my truth and living it and being so proud about it and, trusting it and having faith that it's all working out perfectly and that the right people will hear it at the right time, kind of thing. And
Yeah.
then as you continued moving forward and, starting a center, I'm sure was a huge catalyst to you becoming more bold and more, aligned with what you are all about and what you want to share and with the world. And then like having loving the process of going through that and then helping people like really dial in their performance of shift and lift and stepping into their greatness, stepping into their highest self, stepping into their gifts and these divine truths. So I really, really love how you shared all of that. So I'm going to leave it up to you, Laina. Where do you want to go? Do you want to cover these principles, or would you rather dive into those defining moments first?
Well, let's do a combination,
Cool.
because there is a defining moment where I had to live these principles.
Beautiful.
And actually, two defining moments had happened at the same time.
Okay.
So, fast forward a couple of years after opening the center, I through the process, I started my journey when I was 41. I opened up the center when I was 46. So in those 5 years, there was a lot of transformation happening in me. Like you so perfectly said, my mind was filled with the old programming and about how I was supposed to be in the world, but I was receiving new information that was beginning to open my heart. I just was too afraid to live from my heart, which is why I still had those fears about what would people think.
Yeah.
But in those 5 years, my 23-year marriage was coming to a completion. I was a realtor, and the stock market or the real estate market was shifting. This is 2007, 2008.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So financially, things were very rocky at home. My marriage was shifting. I had a 14-year-old daughter that was suicidal. We had just adopted a 6-year-old boy not too long before that. Lots of things were happening. And so I am hearing these messages that are telling me to open my heart, to think in a new way, but the old stuff is happening. My old life is moving and shaking and shifting and cracking and beginning to fall apart. So as I completed my divorce, well, actually, in the midst of my divorce, I'm teaching a class, and I met this gentleman. He came in, and I knew in my heart, oh wow, this is the love of my life. This is a soulmate here. And we immediately knew that we were remembering each other, almost like from a past life. We had an agreement in this life. So quickly, a romance heated up, beautiful, wonderful. It was incredible. About the time that I met him, my youngest son was, I think he was 12 at the time. So 2 years into my relationship with I call him my beloved, my beloved playmate, to be more specific. He and I are moving into decided to get married. So 2 years later, we decide to get married. And that same year, my youngest son turns 14, and he decides that he wants to start using drugs. So for the next 4 years, I'm in the midst of a defining moment. I am about to marry this man that I adore, and my son starts drug within months of each other. The principles that I was given were very simple. There's everything is a choice between love and fear. And anything that is fear is a block to truth. Everything that instills fear is a thought in that I am limited, that I'm not good enough, that I'm not worthy, that I'm not capable. It's all of the socialization that we receive that box us in and basically takes the edges off of our stars when we get confined into fitting into a box. And I had seen that with my son, who was this bright, brilliant child who was so outgoing, and every adult loved him because he was so wise and fun to be around. And I'm watching him moving through his schooling years, losing some of his brilliance. And I had become a lot focused on my romance, and watching my son struggling some, trying to help him, getting him the tutors. Well, then we came to that defining moment when I'm getting married, he's doing drugs, and his drug use began to progress pretty aggressively. So he's 14 years old. I'm in a new marriage. My new husband is not liking that I'm spending so much time with my son. And then all of a sudden, I've got my husband who is feeling left out, his fears are getting activated, jealousies are active. And I've got my son who is doing taking big risks. So I'm standing in the middle of the two men that I adore the most at that time in my life. And I'm having to say, okay, what God, source, spirit, whatever, what am I going to do here? And I felt this peace inside of me that said, you're going to choose love over fear. And that voice said to me, do you remember that we're all energy? I'm like, yeah. And that voice said to me, well, you got to look at your son as energy. Do not focus on his body.
Mm.
The work with your son is not about this drug intervention.
Right.
We're
The
not only trying,
behaviors.
yeah,
Right.
this is a spiritual intervention.
Mm.
Your focus is on his soul.
Yeah.
Leave the body out of it.
Wow.
So, Chris, I did one of the hardest things that my human self would ever do. My perfect self never would have said this because what would people think? But my spirit self, the one that was resting in the knowingness of these teachings that I had already been teaching for several years and I was beginning to live them,
Mm.
I was told, focus on his soul, not his body. So I told Spencer, sweetie, you can keep drugging if that's what you need to do. But when you come off that high, we got to look at these thoughts that are in your mind that have you go so low, that have you
Right.
think so low of yourself.
Mm.
So in one side of the house, if you go to the upstairs where all the bedrooms are, Spencer is drugging and doing crazy things, and I'm there standing as a presence of love.
Mm.
I leave his room and I walk across the walkway, the longest 20 steps of my life, to the master bedroom where I've got my husband who's not very happy with me. And I'm facing somebody who is irate that I'm allowing my son to drug in the house, and I'm not paying attention to my beloved. So I'm shrinking into, oh boy, I better people please my husband. And I walk out of that room and I am standing as the presence of my strength with my son. So literally, I am shifting and drifting into the density of my fears with my husband and shifting and lifting into the higher vibration, the higher knowing of my soul, my spirit, my essence. So those defining moments when I had to make a decision, what am I going to stand for, literally had me choose love over fear. And it was a process. It didn't happen one time. This was days and days and months and years.
Mm-hmm.
Spencer drugged for 4 years. But for those 4 years, I was very consistent with him that we were going to choose love over fear. With my husband, what began to happen is that I saw I can't continue to buy into his fears. I need to stand for what is good in this relationship. And I was inviting him to, let's focus on the good here. Don't focus on what I'm doing with my son. Please support me with what I'm doing here. Do you realize how difficult it is to tell your son it's okay to drug? And I'm watching him at times try these crazy things that I don't know if he's going to live after he does this. And I saw my husband choose fear over and over and over again. And I watched my son choosing to love himself enough to let me question his thoughts, for him to question his own thoughts, to look at what he was believing that needed to be shifted. I'm not good enough. Well, is that really true? Let's look at times when you were really good. How did you do on that test? Oh, I did really well in that test. Well, isn't that good? Yeah, where did that come from? Me? Well, then that means there's good enough in you. Let's talk about the activities that you were doing, the people that love you, the people that you're helping. He was a very sweet, generous, is still a very sweet, generous young man. So we began to find the things that were good in his life, create an inventory of his amazingness, of those qualities that were his soul, his spirit, what he brought in when he was born, things I didn't teach him, that kindness, that compassion. So little by little, his mind began to be filled with things about himself he could begin to love, and the self-loathing began to lessen. As the self-loathing, that fear-based thoughts in his mind, as that was quieting down, his ability to see his good was increasing. So I committed with him that our focus was only on what was good, what was lovely about him, what was true, what was amazing. And little by little, his own magnificence began to register with him. So he was able to stop drugs for short periods of time, and then he'd go back. And then the periods in which he could drop it extended, and then he would go back. With my husband, the focus was on everything that was wrong. It's all he could focus on because he didn't understand that the essence of who we are, we could choose to be loving.
Wow.
So he was stuck in a mindset that wouldn't shift. And I had to then shift my perception about him. Instead of seeing him as somebody who was doing something that was going to destroy our marriage, I had to say, he's on the journey that he's in. he's going to have to do whatever he does. So I committed to become compassionate while he was in his fears, to the point that my marriage ended. The same summer, my son gave up drugs.
Wow.
So they both started, my marriage started and Spencer's drug use started the same year, 2010, and both ended almost this exact same, well, actually the same month in 2014. And that's when the principles that I teach, the 6 phases we go through from conception to enlightenment, the 3 first phases is how we descend into the density of our ego mind, our self-loathing, our fear-based thinking. And then the next 3 phases, how do we ascend? How do we shift from the density of fear and lift into the higher frequency of love? So to hopefully I've answered your question, the defining moments and what my work is about is really helping people recognize that we have 2 voices inside of us. There's the divine true nature of who we are. That's the magnificence of who we are. And then there's the conditioned human self, all the information that we pick up along our physical trail that we can choose to let go of. We can choose to not believe these thoughts. Like that I had to get people's approval to be happy. I had to let go of that thought. And I had to model that for my son so he would let go of what other people thought of him as a failure, as a screw up, to begin to love himself enough to discover his authenticity. And then comes the part of merging the 2, where your divine self powers your human self. And now you live from the inside out and not from the outside in. So anyways, that's
so powerful.
In a nutshell.
So powerful, Laina. Oh my gosh. And by the way, Mandy says, I applaud you for listening to the voice in your heart. What an incredible journey and a beautiful cycle of learning how to love ourselves more. So your testimony is super, super powerful. And you are a brilliant woman and a bright light in the world. I'm curious, just for my own personal, so to speak, gain, and for anyone who's listening out there who's committed to being a great parent, is there anything that you see that could have been implemented or done differently that led up to his drug use that could have, empowered him to not take that path?
Absolutely. And that's a beautiful question. And it is something that I coach a lot of parents and I teach a lot of conscious parenting workshops. And what I would have done differently, which I began to do with Spencer when he was about 6 years old. By that time, Lauren was 12, and she says it's really unfair because I parented Spencer so different than I did her. Because I was totally unconscious with her.
Right.
I needed her to make me look good. When Spencer came around, I didn't need him to make me look good. I wanted him to be himself. Wow. So what the conscious parenting is all about that I would do different is, well, 2 things. First, as a parent, we need to clean up our own stuff. We need to clean up our insecurities, and we need to not try to live our lives through our children. So that would be the first thing. You can't be a conscious parent until you consciously clean up the programming you receive from your own parents, because they're just going to get projected on your children. So the second thing that is specific to the child is from the get-go, I would remind them that they have that same voice. They've got that connection. They are a spirit here in physical form. I would let them know that their truth comes from inside of them. Instead of me teaching them, I would ask them to teach me, to remind me of the truth. I would make sure that they realize that they're always a choice between what is inside of them intuitively. Those imaginary friends that they have, that's their connection. They're talking to spirit. They're talking to all of those beings that are their guardian angels, that are their connection to source, God, whatever you want to call it. So they're tapped into consciousness. When my daughter told me she had her imaginary friend Lucy, I was like, our daughter is a little crazy here. Wow. But I was a crazy one. I was the insane one that didn't remember that when I was a little girl, I had imaginary friends. Wow. I didn't teach my child about imaginary friends. That came out of her. So that would be the thing that I would do with my children from the beginning, is let them know that who they are is already perfect, whole, complete, brilliant. My work as a parent is to teach them to navigate the world, the maze that we create for humanity, to navigate that, guided, as you so perfectly use in the title of your business, guided by their own internal GPS. We all have that guidance, that personal guidance system is inside of us. We get trained out of listening to that when we get conditioned to listen to mother, father, teacher, preacher, media, government. I would make sure that they know from the get-go that that needs to be their guiding light. And if they say no to me because their guidance system is telling them, say no to what your mom is saying, I need to listen to that.
Wow. What I hear, I love how you ended that with listen to that. What I hear that we can do as parents is listen to what their truth is, right? Like not so much trying to teach them and be like, it's almost like an ego says like, I have the answers. I'm going to show you how to live in this world, how to live a great life. I think there's a portion of that to say, here's my experience and here's what I know as a truth of, your whole, perfect and complete. And then like everything beyond that is like, hey, what's your truth? And then like parents, shh, and listen.
Exactly. Because our ego is nothing more than the collection of thoughts that block our light. It's untruths that we get conditioned to believe is who I am. But it's always a very limited self. It's my name, my ethnicity, my job, my money. That's who we think we are when we listen to that ego voice. So we have that true authentic self that's not defined by the world, that is not confined by an identity. So to be able to honor that in a child, you have to listen, because we don't know who they are. We don't know their purpose. We don't know their brilliance. We've got to be curious and let them express that. It's through their expression that we become aware of it. But our ego mind, when a parent becomes unconscious, their expression becomes the thing that we begin to decide we need to suppress. You can't be that bright, bold. People are not going to like you. Who's going to hire you if you walk in with your hair looking like that?
Right.
Who's going to want you if you talk back? Well, if you begin to understand that that being is here to forge their own path, my job would be to remove as many obstacles, or to teach them how to jump those obstacles, to say, okay, let's go ahead. You got to jump a little higher. They're going to raise the bar. The job's going to raise the bar. This is how you jump that obstacle. You don't buy into it. And so listening is so crucial. I'll tell you something a little funny. I have 3 children. 2 birth children and my adopted son. But it's really funny because my daughter says, you raised them so different than you raised me. And she was right. Like I said earlier, I was conscious with the boys. I was totally unconscious with her. So I made it up to her. When in the inheritance, she gets a little bit more. We're buying her off from being angry at us. We'll give her $5 extra.
See, you won. You happy?
It benefited you that I was so unconscious.
I love it, Laina. That's awesome. Super cool. Mandy also says, yes, I did this so much, shut it off because no one believed in me. It only came back when I started to clean up past belief systems. That's when I realized I wasn't crazy. That's so awesome, because I think that every kid knows internally, they know that truth, they know that essence. And it's important that as parents and even as like leaders, as people seeing people around us wanting to express their truth, like it doesn't even have to be a parent and a kid, but it could be a leader with a follower or a someone on your team or someone who's an employee or whatever it might be, like asking them, what's your truth, and as a leader, doesn't matter if you're the parent of a kid or, a leader leading a company. It's like to draw that out of people who are around us is one of the biggest gifts that we can give to the people around us. Have them feel safe sharing their truth no matter what it is, and just always give them permission to do that. I think that's one of the most valuable gifts that we can provide as a soul to another soul.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what I was committed to. When you shift and lift into love, you have to see, you cannot be loving if you don't experience it in yourself first. But then once you know that you are loved, you look for that in the other. You look for what is wonderful in the other. Your light looks for their light.
Mm.
If we're pointing at other people's darkness or fears, it's because we're in ours.
Mm.
And that became really clear to me when I was dealing with my husband, because I was afraid and I wanted him to stop his fears because I didn't want his fears activating my fears.
Right.
Well, when I finally realized, oh, wait a second, let me just be loving and compassionate, I wasn't getting plugged in. I wasn't participating in that drama. And when the time came for the divorce, it was like, okay, no problem. You know, let's do this. It was a realization of a completion, a defining moment that we had to come to. But let me share something that kind of goes with what you said.
Sure.
So when I went through many encounters where I experienced myself in a state of total complete transcendence. And there was one specific time in 2007 where I found myself at one with the source of all that is.
Yeah.
And after really knowing the truth of what has happened to all of us, when all truth was revealed to me, and it's taken me 11 years to live into that, and I'm sure the rest of my life to really assimilate all that was shown to me. But I had this moment where I said, I was coming out of that experience, and I said, how am I going to know that I'm living in alignment with my truth? And I was told as clear as can be, when your life is fun and easy. And I went, get out of here. You realize how difficult this life is? You know, it's treacherous out there. And that voice said to me, reassured me, if your life is fun, you're living from your heart. If it's easy, you're following the path of least resistance, which means you're listening to guidance. Synchronicity will open the doors. Your path will be made very easy for you. So it took me quite a while to allow myself to really be fun and easy. And everybody who tells me it can't be that way, then I know that they're in their conditioned mind, ego's taken over. The obstacles are real big obstacles for them, and they're not ready to let it be fun yet, nor easy. And I respect now everybody is on whatever stair step they are on this journey. But it's my mantra. And when I talk to my kids, you know, when I talk to my clients, what would be the fun thing for you to do today? What would excite you? What is joyful? Because when we begin to shift out of what's wrong in our lives and what would make it fun, what that does is it's like it creates an opening in the mind that creativity can flow, ideas. Everything that is of the ego is a repetitive pattern. Everything that is of our soul is fresh and new. That's why it's exciting.
Wow.
You can't continue to live your life like Einstein said, doing the same thing, expecting a different result. Well, if you're in fear, you're just regurgitating what you're afraid of. You're regurgitating what stops you, your limitations. But when you ask somebody, what excites you? First of all, they're a little shocked because they probably not heard somebody ask them, well, what excites you? What lights you up? Then all of a sudden you see their face softens. It's like their chest goes out. They open up. They move out of their ego-based, close, limited self, and then they open up. And all of a sudden, it begins to activate things. And when we live from that joyful place, that creativity, that imagination, the ideas come in, and then the people, the things that help you move that forward, it shows up. Maybe not when you're expecting it, but they show up when you're ready for it. So that whole aspect of life being fun and easy, I can assure you that even though we move through very uncomfortable things, our soul came here to have an adventure called being human. Our soul doesn't see anything as impossible. Our spirit knows this is just an adventure. Planet Earth is a playground. It's like an amusement park. Some rides are scary, some will be fun, but it's just a ride that we're on. And your soul doesn't take anything personally, and it doesn't get weighed down by the density of our stories. So we can always tap into that part of us. For a while, I thought I was schizophrenic. I had my happy self and my fearful self, and I would like, listen, okay, what would be fun? Oh, shoot, I can't do that. That's not, and I was moving back and forth. It was crazy for a while. And then I decided to only listen to the one voice that speaks the truth. So
Mm,
that shifted everything. But to our children, if you tell them, hey, inside of you, there's a voice that is fun,
mm,
let's talk about that one. So let's figure out the way to make this happen. That
mm.
is the most empowering thing. Um, anyways, I wanted to share that fun and easy part
That's
tidbit.
awesome. Yeah, and that leads right into my next question, which was going to be about the 6 levels that you mentioned earlier, just so we have an idea and people can, self-assess where we might be or what we can do to get to our next quote unquote level of greatest possible self in our best life.
Well, if they want to go to my website at
Sure.
linaorlando.com,
Mhm.
on the very front page, they can register for it's a free course.
Okay.
I call it a master class because it is I teach the 6 phases are laid out as simple as can be. It's a series of videos
Okay.
and it explains the first phase is the wonder phase. We're born from the moment of conception. The soul says, "Oh, I wonder what this life is going to be about." There's an excitement, there's a fun, there's an ease about coming in. Second phase is the learning phase where we learn how to do life as a human.
Mm,
The next phase is the control phase. And this is the phase where most people live their lives, even from a little bitty child. You're trying to
mm.
control circumstances with you're saying, no, I do it my way. We start controlling from a very early age.
Wow.
But most people die in the control phase because they're trying to control their finances. They want to make sure they got the right retirement. They
Mm,
control the person they're with, where they live, the car they drive, what they do, what they eat, what they wear. It's all focused on everything that is external and material.
right.
And then we descend because the journey is a circle.
Hmm.
So it's not like we're climbing up. No, we go down first. Like Plato taught us in his beautiful story about the cave, we all descend into believing that we're imprisoned by all the trappings of the world, and we are. So the next 3 phases happen when there is a moment of there's got to be another way.
Hmm.
When an addict hits their rock bottom and now they decide no more to this. When a person is coming out of depression and says, no, I'm taking my life back.
Yeah.
We all have those moments where we then move to the next phase, and that's the curiosity phase.
Hmm.
Curiosity is just that. I am going to be open to what else is there because I've been controlling things with my old repetitive fears and I keep getting the same thing over and over again. Let me stop controlling. And instead of controlling things, let me open up and be curious.
Hmm.
Curiosity for most people sends us into the self help movement, into therapy, into talking to a friend. Tell me how you did this.
Yeah.
But it's typically what begins to move people on their spiritual journey, and they begin to ascend because it feels good
Hmm.
to hear the possibilities that other people have achieved. I mean, that's why all of the books are about how to do things better. There's
Right.
not a bestseller about how to make your life suck. um, that you got to give up the control phase for that. So in
Ah.
the curiosity phase is how do I make it better? So there's
Hmm.
already an opening and an enlightenment. That's why we call it conception to enlightenment. We are beginning to let our light shine again.
Hmm.
The next phase is the hardest of them all. It's called the unlearning phase.
Hmm.
And that looks like the dark night of the soul. That is a period that can take people decades. Some people have been in it for many lifetimes. I know I was in that. We all loop around in that unlearning. But in this lifetime right now, in the shift in energy that we're in, there is an acceleration to help all of us wake up.
Hmm.
We are seeing the cracks in the systems out there. The government, the insurance, the craziness is
Right.
falling apart. So we have to unlearn. People are getting curious, voicing this is not okay. Then we got to unlearn. Unlearning is looking at exactly what you picked up. So these are all the negative beliefs, the beliefs that blocked you from hearing your GPS.
Hmm.
So unlearning takes however long it takes. But when you move through that unlearning phase, you also have to undo your ego. That's not an easy thing to do. That's a dissolving of my separate sense of self, my personality that we all get very attached to.
Yeah.
Um, from there, you go to the wisdom phase. Well, the wisdom phase is when you realize oh my gosh, why did I make it so hard for myself? This is where you learn from your lessons. And these are not like you move through this and you get there. There's not a getting there. It's an organic thing, because once you get to wisdom, you realize, let me get back into wonder. You become like a child
Child
again.
again. Yeah.
You operate, I'm going to be 57 this year. I like living in wonder. And
Wow.
people say, well, but that's the beginning. Yeah, that's a beginner mind. I
Wow.
love the wonder phase.
Yeah.
The only thing that I want to learn is how to enjoy um, being me more. So
Yeah.
I love learning, but now I'm learning truth and controlling. The only thing I want to control is what is in my mind. If I can pick the clothes that I wear, I'm going to pick the thoughts that I think. Because if I think high vibrating thoughts, my life is going to be fun and easy. If I'm thinking low frequency thoughts, fear, obstacles, I can't do it, I'm not good enough, I'm going to have to be experiencing the manifestation of that limitation.
Right.
I don't want to get back into curiosity and have to unlearn that crap again. So I like to stay in the wonder phase, and I like to stay in the beginner mind,
Yeah.
where it's just fun to have that childlike sense of wonder again. And that's what's wise, is to
Man.
be there.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, one of the things that I know me and my girlfriend, we pride the most in ourselves is how much we can tap into that childlike wonder, into that childlike play and fun, and just go there in an instant, because I think life conditions and the media and society says like to be serious, to have your stuff together, and it's like in an instant we can drop the responsibility of being an adult and go into that child and just go play and notice the butterflies and like admire the rainbow or whatever it is, right? Like that wonder of our reality. And it's really, really cool.
Well, I want to take a second to commend you for not only, your excitement when you do these. I know when we had our first conversation a few months back, you live in that state. You're the embodiment of that. And your generation is so beautiful and so wonderful. And I'm glad you guys don't listen to work hard and conform, that you're not going to do that.
Right.
Your GPS is too loud.
Mm,
Um, so thank you for listening to that and impacting your generation even more, because some will need a little bit of unlearning,
yeah.
depending on the unconscious parents that they had. But the 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 whole system is built into give up who you are and then work hard and become dependent on
Mm,
all of these systems that need us to keep feeding them. When we can unplug from that matrix, that feed the outer world kind of stuff, it just changes you. At my age, oh my God, I don't work. This is play for me.
yes,
Can you
yes.
imagine how much joy I see it in your face, how much you enjoy sharing wisdom. It's so much fun because I'm not attached to the outcome. If people take it, they take it. If they don't, they don't.
Yeah.
In that master class, which is called the soul's journey,
Ooh,
you can see the phases that we go through. I am very clear. It's very organic. You're constantly moving. You can be in wisdom in relationships and in control in money. So you learn how to navigate it very organically. That's what makes life fun. It
wow.
makes it fun to play with everything that is here. And when you listen to your GPS, of course, it's going to be easy, because
Mm,
that guidance is something above you saying, go here, turn there, meet with this one, meet with that one. And I like the universe being the boss of me now. I really love it. I surrendered.
just go with the flow. Let's jump into the flow rather than trying to swim against it.
Totally, totally.
I love it. And one of the things that you mentioned, I just really wanted to touch on, and we may have already covered it, but the shift and lift, you mentioned that a couple times, and I just wanted to, briefly touch on it if we didn't, get to the explanation of what that is, because I know that's a key part of who you are and your brand and what you do for people.
So it's very simple. It's 4 steps. And this is something that is not on my website yet because I'm redoing it, but it
Okay.
will be there within another month or so.
Cool.
But it's 4 steps. And I created a worksheet that goes with the 4 steps. And again, it will be there in about a month.
Okay.
So it's something that I give away for free, because it's the trick. It's the
Mm,
secret sauce that doesn't belong to me. It belongs to all of us.
wow.
The first step is awareness. You got to be aware of the thing that you are not happy about, the thing that you want to change, that thing you want to shift.
Mhm.
The second step is you have to practice acceptance. It is what it is. The lover left you, it is. You got fired, it is. There was a death in the family, it was. So when you accept that things, you cannot change what's on the outside, you can only change your perception about it. Then you go to the next step, which is, well, what were these fear-based thoughts? Because those fear-based thoughts cause you to shift and drift into density. They make you not be able to be receptive to change, because you go into control when you're in fear. Self-protection always. And once you look at your fears, and you're invited to look at a list that is very specific, and you have to work the list. And the reason is because our ego likes to trick us into believing that we have different fears than we have.
Yeah.
And when you're shifting from fears and you're looking to the love perspective about the exact same thing, you have to follow the list, because the profound shift that people experience is when they're asked a series of questions that have them see that operating from fear, it generates an environment of disconnection, of separation. It's never going to be a happy place. And you're always coming from a victim or a bully when you're in fear. When you follow to love and you look at how would I show up in a state of love. So let's say fear would be, I'm seeing this as a problem. Love would say, this is an opportunity. Well, when you see things as an opportunity, you relax, you open up. It creates an atmosphere of connection, communication, collaboration, cooperation. That allows you to feel connected to whoever it is, yourself, or if it's somebody else that this pertains to. And the fourth step is so simple, and that is to recognize how powerful you are. When you believe fear-based thoughts, you have one outcome. When you believe love-based thoughts, you have a different outcome. So who did this to me? Me. So the shift and lift is I shift my perceptions from things that have me feel closed off and protected because I'm in victim or bully, to expanding and lifting my vibration, lifting my perspective to what if we did this as a win-win? Because fear-based is win-lose. Love is let's all win. This is an abundant universe. Why not everybody win? So those are the simple steps of shift and lift.
Wow.
And I'm going to have a video that is going to walk people through that. I give examples of it. It's so powerful and so simple. So simple. The first one is a little challenging to fill out the first time because our ego does not want us to see that we're doing this to ourselves. Our ego wants to blame somebody else. It's everybody else. But once you follow the formula, oh my gosh, you begin to see, why am I creating my own suffering? That's when you go, damn, I'm really powerful. I create both. Yeah. Which one feels better? Which one feels better? Well, the one that's fun and easy, always.
Amen. Fun and easy. Let's do it. Laina, I am so having fun. This is an amazing conversation. I know people are hungry for more. The shift and lift, the 4 steps, as well as those 6 phases in the soul's journey. I know I'm going to be putting in my email, finding out more about those. So how can people get those again? Can you remind us and tell us how they can stay connected with you too? Because you have a wealth of wisdom and knowledge and also resources to help people along their journey. So tell them how they can do that.
It's go to lainaorlando.com, and my name is spelled Laina, Orlando like the city, LainaOrlando.com. And I am revamping my website and adding the Awareness Academy as an online place, online resource for courses. Okay. And you know, I know that I'm now following that guidance, that's what comes next. So right now, I'm in the midst of populating it. So pretty soon, keep visiting lainaorlando.com and you'll see more things added to it in the Awareness Academy.
Awesome. Beautiful. Laina, thank you so much for coming on. You're a superstar. Thank you for your love and your presence and just contribution to the world and people around you. You're a superstar. Thank you so much.
So are you. You only see in me what you are reflecting back. And thank you for shining your magnificence for all of us to enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you, Laina. We'll see you soon, okay?
Bye-bye.
Bye.